The encounter. The planet Rylora was a strange, cold place. Its sky was always gray, and thick fog covered the rocky ground. The air was thin, and the winds howled through the valleys. Only a few creatures could survive in such a harsh world. It was a planet where most people would never want to go. But that day, Zara had no choice. Zara was running for her life. Her heart pounded in her chest as her feet stumbled across the uneven ground. She glanced behind her and saw the dark shadows of her pursuers in the distance. The mercenaries were getting closer, and she knew they wouldn't stop until they had her. Zara wasn't just any alien. She was part of a rare species called the Nyx, and they were almost extinct. Worse yet, she carried something inside her, a secret that could change the fate of the galaxy. And that's why she was being hunted. Her legs were tired, and her breath came in short, sharp bursts. She could hear the heavy boots of the mercenaries as they closed in. Zara ducked behind a large boulder, trying to catch her breath. She pressed her back against the cold stone and squeezed her eyes shut, hoping they would pass by without seeing her. Suddenly, she heard a soft hum in the air, a sound she hadn't expected. It was a ship landing nearby. Zara peeked around the rock and saw a small, sleek spacecraft descending through the fog. The ship was not like the bulky, rusted ships the mercenaries used. This one was clean, new, and efficient. It landed gently on the ground, not far from where she was hiding. Zara's heart skipped a beat. Was this a new threat, or could it be someone who might help her? The hatch of the ship opened with a hiss, and out stepped a figure she hadn't expected, a human. Zara had heard stories about humans, but had never seen one in person. They were strange creatures, different from most other species in the galaxy. Some said they were weak, others said they were unpredictable. But they had a reputation for bravery, and Zara hoped that part of the legend was true. The human walked with purpose, scanning the surroundings with sharp eyes. He was tall, with short, dark hair and a calm, determined expression. His name was Commander Alex Matthews, and he was on a routine mission to scout for new resources on the planet. Little did he know, his simple mission was about to change. As Alex surveyed the area, he noticed something out of place. His sharp eyes caught a flicker of movement behind a boulder. He slowly approached, his hand resting on the blaster holstered at his side. He wasn't sure what to expect. Maybe it was a wild animal, or worse, an enemy. When he got closer, he saw her, an alien girl, barely holding herself together, fear written all over her face. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were wide with panic. She looked exhausted and terrified. Alex paused for a moment. His first instinct was to be cautious, but something about her expression made him hesitate. She wasn't a threat. She was scared. Before Alex could say anything, Zara spoke. Her voice was weak but urgent. "Please, help me. They're coming." Alex didn't need to ask who they were. As he looked around, he could already hear the sounds of approaching footsteps. The mercenaries were closing in. He knew he didn't have much time to decide. He could have turned and left her there. After all, this wasn't his fight. But something inside him, maybe that human bravery or just plain stubbornness, wouldn't let him walk away. He held out his hand to her. "Come with me if you want to live," he said. Zara didn't hesitate. She grabbed his hand, and Alex quickly pulled her up from her hiding spot. Together, they ran toward his ship. The mercenaries were closer now, their shouts echoing through the fog. Alex fired a few shots back to slow them down, but he knew it wouldn't hold them off for long. He needed to get Zara out of here fast. They reached the ship, and Alex quickly hit the controls to open the hatch. Zara stumbled inside, her breathing heavy, her body shaking from exhaustion. Alex followed right behind her, sealing the door just as the first mercenaries arrived at the landing site. The ship's engines roared to life, and within moments, they were lifting off the ground. From the cockpit, Alex could see the mercenaries firing up at them, but their shots were useless. He maneuvered the ship through the fog and into the sky. Zara sat in the co-pilot's seat, clutching the armrests tightly. She looked at Alex with wide eyes, still trying to catch her breath. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible, but Alex heard it. He nodded without taking his eyes off the controls. "Who are those guys?" he asked. They're after me," Zara replied. "I have something they want." Alex glanced at her, raising an eyebrow. "And what exactly is that?" Zara hesitated, unsure if she should trust this human with her secret, but after everything he had done for her, she realized she had no choice. "I carry knowledge, something that could destroy them. That's why they're hunting me." Alex didn't say anything for a moment. He had just signed up for a simple mission, but now it seemed he was involved in something far bigger. He took a deep breath and looked over at Zara. She looked fragile, but there was a strength in her eyes. "Well," Alex said with a small grin, "looks like things just got a lot more interesting." Zara managed a weak smile. For the first time in days, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this human would be brave enough to help her survive. This first part sets the stage for an exciting adventure, introducing both characters and building suspense, while keeping the language simple and engaging the chase. The ship soared through the foggy sky, moving quickly away from the mercenaries below. But even as they climbed higher, Zara could not relax. She knew the danger wasn't over. The mercenaries would not stop hunting her, and now, because of her, Alex was caught up in the chase as well. Alex sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes focused on the controls. He could feel the tension in the air. The question of why was still on his mind, but he knew now was not the time for answers. They needed to get somewhere safe first. Suddenly, the radar beeped, pulling Alex's attention to the screen. 3 blips appeared, enemy ships. "Looks like they've sent out some friends to greet us," Alex muttered, his hands tightening on the controls. Zara's eyes widened. "They won't stop until they have me," she whispered, her voice trembling. She looked out the window at the darkening sky. "They won't let me go." Alex glanced over at her. "Don't worry. I've been in worse situations," he said, trying to reassure her. But even as he said it, he knew this was no simple escape. These weren't just any mercenaries. They were skilled hunters, and they had powerful ships. The enemy ships were closing in fast. Alex could hear their engines roaring through the comms. He gritted his teeth and pulled back on the throttle, pushing his own ship to its limit. "Hold on tight," he shouted as the ship made a sudden dive toward the planet's surface. Zara gasped as the ship lurched downward, her hands gripping the seat tightly. Alex weaved through the thick clouds, using the cover to shake off the enemy. The mercenaries followed, firing lasers at them. Bright streaks of light shot past their ship, narrowly missing them. "Why are they chasing you so hard?" Alex asked through gritted teeth as he steered the ship. He glanced at her briefly before turning his focus back to the skies ahead. Zara hesitated, unsure of how much to tell them. But with death close behind them, she knew she couldn't keep everything hidden. "They want something I know," she finally said. "Something that could give them incredible power. If they get it, they'll use it to destroy entire planets." Alex raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like something worth fighting for," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. The mercenaries weren't giving up. They stayed on Alex's tail, shooting at his ship every few seconds. Alex dodged and rolled, barely keeping them from hitting their target. He knew he couldn't keep this up forever. "We need a plan," Zara shouted over the noise. "I'm working on it," Alex replied. He scanned the landscape below, searching for something, anything, that could help them escape. Then he saw it. Up ahead, there was a narrow canyon with sharp, jagged rocks on either side. It was risky, but it might just be their best chance. Alex pointed toward the canyon they had just escaped. "We can't outrun them, but we can trick them. If we can get back into the canyon, we can use the terrain to our advantage. The mercenary ships are too big to maneuver through the narrow passages, but we have to lure them in." Zora frowned, her brow furrowing. Lure them in? How? Alex's lips curved into a small, determined smile. We'll make them think we're heading to a different spot, maybe even trying to escape on foot. When they get close, we'll double back and slip into the canyon. Once we're inside, they won't be able to follow us. Zara bit her lip, thinking it over. It was a dangerous plan, but it was better than doing nothing. And Alex seemed confident. She nodded slowly. Okay, let's do it. Alex took a deep breath and peeked out from behind the rocks. The ships were still circling, scanning the ground for any sign of them. He looked around, his eyes scanning the landscape. There was a small hill not far from their position, just high enough to make it look like they were trying to get to the other side. Follow me, Alex whispered, crouching low as he moved toward the hill. Zara followed, keeping her head down as they crept through the dust and debris. Once they reached the base of the hill, Alex stopped and turned to Zara. We need to make it look like we're climbing over this hill, he said. They'll follow us here. Then, while they're distracted, we double back. Zara nodded, her heart racing in her chest. She could feel the tension in the air. Every second felt like a lifetime. She trusted Alex, but she couldn't shake the fear that something could go wrong. Alex started climbing the hill, making sure to leave footprints in the soft dirt. Zara did the same, moving carefully as she followed his lead. When they reached the halfway point, Alex motioned for her to stop. Now, we wait. They crouched behind a large boulder, watching as the mercenary ships slowly circled closer. Alex's plan seemed to be working. The ships were focusing on the hill, their searchlights sweeping across the landscape in search of movement. Alex glanced at Zora and gave her a nod. It's time. Let's go. They quickly scrambled back down the hill, moving as fast as they could without making too much noise. The sound of the ships overhead grew fainter as they moved away, giving Alex and Zara the window they needed to slip back toward the canyon. But just as they reached the edge of the canyon, a loud explosion shook the ground. Alex and Zara spun around in shock. One of the mercenaries had fired a missile, hitting the hill they had just left behind. Smoke and debris filled the air as the hill crumbled, leaving a large crater where it once stood. They're trying to flush us out, Zara shouted over the noise, her eyes wide with panic. Keep moving, Alex yelled back. We can't stop now. They ran into the canyon, the narrow walls closing in around them. The sound of the mercenary ships echoed above, but the ships couldn't follow them inside. The passage was too tight for the large vessels, just as Alex had predicted. But the danger wasn't over. The mercenaries weren't giving up easily. Alex could hear them landing their ships outside the canyon, their footsteps growing louder as they started to give chase on foot. Zora looked at Alex, fear in her eyes. They're coming. I know, Alex said, his voice steady. But they're on foot now. That evens the playing field. We just have to stay ahead of them. He led Zora deeper into the canyon, moving quickly but carefully. The walls were jagged, and the path was uneven. But they pushed on, determined to escape. Every now and then, Alex would glance back, listening for the mercenaries. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a small cave hidden behind a thick curtain of vines. Alex pulled Zara inside, the two of them collapsing against the cool stone walls. They were both exhausted, but they had made it. For now. Zora looked at Alex, her chest rising and falling with each heavy breath. What now? Alex wiped the sweat from his brow and gave her a tired smile. We rest, he said, and then we figure out our next move. Zara nodded, feeling a small sense of relief wash over her. They had escaped the worst of it, for now, but she knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. The mercenaries were still out there, and they wouldn't stop until they found her. But for now, they were safe, and that was enough. Into the depths. The cave was cold, dark, and silent. Alex and Zara leaned against the walls, catching their breath after the exhausting escape. The mercenaries were still out there, but at least for now, they were safe inside the hidden cave. Zara hugged her knees, her small frame trembling slightly from the stress and cold. Alex noticed and shrugged off his jacket, handing it to her. She took it gratefully and wrapped it around herself, trying to warm up. "Thank you," Zara said softly. Her large, expressive eyes reflected both fear and gratitude. Alex nodded. "Don't mention it," he said, though his mind was already racing ahead. He knew this cave would only be a temporary refuge. The mercenaries were relentless, and sooner or later they would search every inch of the canyon. They had to keep moving. As the silence stretched on, Zora's nervous voice broke through. "What do they want from me, Alex? Why are they chasing us?" Alex leaned back, rubbing the back of his neck. He had been avoiding the question, but he knew Zora deserved an answer. She had been through enough already. "They want you because you're special, Zora," Alex explained, choosing his words carefully. "You're not just any alien girl. You're from a powerful race, one that has rare abilities. Abilities some people would do anything to control." Zora's eyes widened. "But I'm not powerful. I'm just." "You don't have to be powerful right now," Alex interrupted gently. "The potential is what matters to them. They think they can use you for their own purposes, turn you into something dangerous." Zora looked down, her face filled with worry. "I don't want to be dangerous." "You won't be," Alex assured her. "Not with me around. I'll protect you. We just need to stay ahead of them." Zara nodded, though she still seemed unsure. "Do you think we can make it?" Alex smiled, though he didn't feel as confident as he sounded. "We've made it this far, haven't we? We just need to keep moving, stay smart." Suddenly, a sound echoed from outside the cave, a faint, distant noise. Alex tensed, listening carefully. The mercenaries were close. He cursed under his breath. They needed to move again, and fast. "We have to go," Alex whispered. "They're searching the canyon." Zara stood up quickly, ready to follow him. Alex glanced outside, peeking through the vines that covered the cave entrance. The mercenaries were creeping through the narrow canyon, their footsteps echoing off the stone walls. They were getting closer with each passing second. Alex motioned for Zara to stay low and quiet as they slipped out of the cave and back into the canyon. They needed to find a way out, something the mercenaries wouldn't expect. Alex led the way, his mind working furiously to come up with a plan. As they moved deeper into the canyon, the walls began to close in, growing narrower and more treacherous. The path twisted and turned, becoming more difficult to navigate. But Alex pressed on, hoping that the difficult terrain might slow down their pursuers. After what felt like hours of careful climbing and crawling, they reached a dead end. The canyon walls rose up high on all sides, cutting off any chance of escape. "We're trapped," Zara whispered, her voice trembling. "What are we going to do now?" Alex looked around, desperate for a solution. Then his eyes landed on a narrow crack in the canyon wall. It was barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through, but it seemed to lead deeper into the rock. "There," Alex said, pointing to the crack. "We can go through there. It might be tight, but it's our only option." Zara hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, I trust you." One by one, they carefully squeezed through the crack, entering what seemed to be an ancient tunnel carved into the stone. The air was damp and cool, and the faint sound of dripping water echoed through the passage. Alex could feel the weight of the stone pressing in on them from all sides. It was claustrophobic, but they had no choice. The mercenaries wouldn't be able to follow them through such a narrow space. For now, they had the advantage. They moved slowly through the tunnel, their footsteps echoing softly. Zara stayed close to Alex, her small hand gripping his arm. She was scared, but she knew that as long as she was with Alex, she had a chance. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel opened up into a large hidden cavern. Stalactites hung from the ceiling, and a small underground stream ran through the center of the cavern, its water sparkling in the dim light. Alex stopped to catch his breath, looking around in awe. "This place, it's amazing," he said quietly. "I don't think anyone's been here for a long time." Zora looked around as well, her eyes wide with wonder. For a moment, the fear of the mercenaries faded, replaced by a sense of peace. The hidden cavern felt like a sanctuary, far removed from the dangers outside. But Alex knew they couldn't stay here forever. The mercenaries would eventually figure out where they had gone. They needed to keep moving, keep one step ahead. As they rested by the stream, Zara spoke softly. "Do you think there's a way out of here?" Alex nodded. "There has to be. Every tunnel leads somewhere. We'll find our way out." Zara smiled, a small glimmer of hope returning to her face. She believed in Alex, and that was enough for her to keep going. Together, they would find a way to escape this canyon and the mercenaries chasing them. They had survived this long by sticking together, and they wouldn't give up now. They had to keep moving, no matter what dangers lay ahead. The hidden path. The hidden cavern felt magical to Alex and Zara. The glow of the underground stream illuminated the space, casting shadows on the walls. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like ancient teeth, and the air was cool and fresh. But Alex knew that they couldn't linger here for too long. The mercenaries could still be searching. "Okay, Zora," Alex said, breaking the silence. "We need to find another way out of here." Zora nodded, her eyes scanning the cavern. "Do you think there are more tunnels?" "Most likely," Alex replied. "Caves like this often connect to other places. We just have to look carefully." They started to explore the cavern together, moving slowly. The sound of water dripping echoed around them, creating a soothing rhythm. Alex felt a sense of calm wash over him, but he pushed it aside. They had to stay focused. As they walked, they spotted a series of small tunnels branching off from the main cavern. Some were narrow, while others looked wider and more inviting. Alex pointed to the left. "Let's check that one first." Zora followed him, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. They crawled into the narrow tunnel, its walls rough against their skin. The passage twisted and turned, and soon they were in complete darkness. "Alex?" Zara whispered, her voice shaking slightly. "I can't see anything." "I know," Alex said, trying to reassure her. "Just hold on to my arm. I'll guide you." They moved slowly through the darkness, feeling their way along the walls. Alex's mind raced as he tried to think of their next steps. They had to find a way out of this cave system before the mercenaries caught up with them. Suddenly, Zara stopped. "Wait, Alex. Do you hear that?" Alex listened carefully. Faint voices echoed through the darkness, growing louder with each passing moment. His heart sank. The mercenaries had followed them into the cave. "We need to hurry," Alex said urgently. He felt a surge of adrenaline as he pulled Zora along, moving faster now. The voices were getting closer, and they had to find an escape route quickly. As they continued down the tunnel, they spotted a faint light ahead. It flickered like a distant star, and hope ignited in Alex's chest. "There, we need to get to that light." They rushed toward the light, their breaths coming fast. The tunnel opened into another cavern, this one much larger than the last. The walls sparkled with minerals, and the ceiling was lost in shadows above them. In the center of the cavern, a small pool of water shimmered, reflecting the flickering light. But they had no time to marvel at the beauty. The voices behind them grew louder, echoing through the tunnels. Alex quickly scanned the cavern, searching for a way out. "There." He pointed to a passage on the opposite side. "We can go that way." Without waiting for a response, Alex took Zora's hand and led her toward the passage. They moved swiftly, their hearts pounding as they dodged through the rock formations. The voices of the mercenaries were now very close, and Alex knew they had to be quick. As they entered the new tunnel, it felt cooler and damp. They pushed forward, the sound of their footsteps echoing against the stone. Alex was determined to put as much distance as possible between them and their pursuers. After what felt like a lifetime of running, they finally emerged into another open space. This cavern was even larger than the last, filled with strange rock formations and colorful crystals that glowed softly in the darkness. "Wow," Zara breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. Not the time to be amazed. Alex urged, glancing back toward the entrance they had just come through. He could hear the mercenaries approaching. "We need to keep moving." They dashed deeper into the cavern, adrenaline pushing them forward. The walls of the cave twisted and turned, creating a maze of tunnels. Alex felt a rush of panic as he realized they were lost. "Which way do we go?" Zara asked, her voice tight with fear. "I don't know," Alex admitted, trying to keep calm. "Let's just keep going. We can't go back." They chose a tunnel to their right and moved forward. The air grew colder, and the walls felt slick with moisture. Alex's heart raced as they pressed on, his mind racing with thoughts of the mercenaries closing in. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake. Alex stumbled, catching himself against the wall. Zara gasped as a low rumble echoed through the cavern. "What's happening?" she shouted over the noise. "I think the mercenaries are trying to break in." Alex yelled back, his voice strained. "We need to find a way out. Now." They rushed down the tunnel, the rumbling growing louder. The walls seemed to close in on them, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as they pushed forward. At the end of the tunnel, they saw a glimmer of light again. This time, it was brighter and more inviting. "There," Alex shouted. "We need to reach it." They sprinted toward the light, their legs burning with exertion. Just as they reached the opening, they heard the mercenaries shouting behind them. The sound echoed through the tunnel, sending a chill down Alex's spine. They burst into the light, stumbling into a new area. This cavern was filled with bright sunlight streaming through a large opening at the top. "We made it," Zora exclaimed, looking around in disbelief. But their relief was short-lived. The sound of footsteps and shouting echoed behind them. The mercenaries were close, and they needed to escape before they were caught. "Come on," Alex urged, grabbing Zora's hand again. "We can't stop now." They ran toward the opening, but as they approached, Alex realized it was too high to climb. He looked around desperately, searching for anything that could help them escape. Then he spotted a narrow ledge along the wall that seemed to lead up toward the opening. "Zara, over there," he pointed. "We can climb that ledge." Without wasting a moment, they scrambled toward the ledge. Alex helped Zara up first, then followed her, their hearts racing as they heard the mercenaries closing in. They climbed as fast as they could, their fingers gripping the rough rock. Alex could feel his muscles burning, but he pushed through the pain, focusing on getting them to safety. Finally, they'd reached the top of the ledge. The opening loomed above them, and they could feel the warm sunlight pouring in. "Almost there," Alex shouted, pulling Zara up with him. Together, they scrambled through the opening, tumbling out into the open air. They landed in a patch of soft grass, breathless and shaken. Alex looked back at the cave, heart racing. They had made it out just in time. But they couldn't stop now. The mercenaries would still be searching for them. They needed to find a place to hide and plan their next move. "Come on," Alex said, taking Zora's hand. "We have to keep moving. We can't let them catch us." Together, they ventured into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In this part, Alex and Zara find themselves escaping deeper into the cave system, facing new challenges and obstacles. The tension builds as they evade the mercenaries, leading to a thrilling escape into the open air. The refuge. Alex and Zara stumbled into a small forest, the sunlight warming their faces. The tall trees surrounded them, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze. It felt peaceful compared to the darkness of the caves, but Alex knew they couldn't relax just yet. "Where should we go now?" Zara asked, her voice shaky. She looked around, trying to catch her breath. "We need to find a safe place to hide," Alex replied, scanning the area. "If those mercenaries are still looking for us, we can't stay out in the open." As they moved deeper into the forest, they came across a cluster of bushes. "Let's hide here for now," Alex suggested, pointing to the dense greenery. They crouched down, their hearts still racing from their escape. They listened carefully, the sounds of the forest surrounding them. Birds chirped overhead, and somewhere in the distance, a stream flowed gently. But underneath those peaceful sounds, Alex could still hear his heart pounding. "I can't believe we made it out of that cave," Zara said, her voice a mixture of relief and disbelief. "Do you think they'll find us here?" "I hope not," Alex said, trying to sound confident. "But we have to be careful. They could be searching the area." They sat quietly for a moment, gathering their thoughts. Alex felt grateful for Zara's bravery. She had been strong throughout their ordeal, and it gave him strength too. "Do you think the people on your planet will help us?" Zara asked, breaking the silence. "If we get back, I mean." "I don't know," Alex admitted. "It's hard to say, but we have to try. I can't let anything happen to you. You're important to me." Zara smiled softly at his words, and Alex felt warmth spread through him. They had been through so much together, and their bond was growing stronger. Just then, a rustle in the bushes nearby made them both freeze. Alex held his breath, peering through the leaves. He could see a figure moving in the distance. "Stay quiet," he whispered to Zara. "Let's see who it is." The figure came closer, and as it stepped into view, Alex's heart sank. It was one of the mercenaries, searching the area with a flashlight. Alex quickly grabbed Zara's hand, ready to flee if needed. The mercenary moved cautiously, scanning the surroundings. "They can't be far," he muttered to himself. "They went this way." Zara's eyes widened with fear. "What should we do?" she whispered urgently. "We wait," Alex replied, his voice low. "We can't risk being seen. If he gets too close, we'll find a way to distract him." The mercenary continued searching, moving closer to their hiding spot. Alex felt the tension in the air thickening. He knew they had to act soon, or they would be caught. Suddenly, the mercenary turned his back to them, shining the flashlight toward the trees. This was their chance. "Now," Alex whispered, and they bolted from the bushes, dashing toward the trees on the other side of the clearing. "Over here," the mercenary shouted, realizing too late that they had escaped. Alex and Zara ran deeper into the forest, their legs pumping as adrenaline surged through them. They didn't stop until they reached a small hill, hidden by thick underbrush. Alex stopped to catch his breath, leaning against a tree. "That was too close," Zara gasped, her face pale. "We can't stop," Alex said, his mind racing. "We need to find a safe place to rest and think of a plan." They continued moving, but this time, Alex tried to stay aware of their surroundings. After a while, they stumbled upon a small cabin nestled between the trees. It looked old and abandoned, but it could provide the shelter they needed. "Should we check it out?" Zara asked, her eyes wide with hope. "Let's be careful," Alex replied, leading the way. They approached the cabin slowly, the wooden door creaking slightly as the wind blew. "Hello," Zara called softly, peering inside. "Is anyone there?" No answer came. Alex pushed the door open a little wider, and they stepped inside. The cabin was dark and dusty, filled with old furniture and forgotten memories. It smelled musty, but it felt like a safe place to hide. "Looks empty," Alex said, stepping further in. "We can rest here for a bit." They moved deeper into the cabin, finding a small room in the back, with a window that looked out into the forest. Alex pulled back the curtains, letting in some light. They could see the trees swaying outside, but it felt much safer than being out in the open. "Let's sit for a moment," Alex suggested, finding an old chair. "We need to plan our next move." Zara nodded, sitting on a dusty wooden crate. "What if they find us here?" she asked, worry clouding her eyes. "They might, but it's better than being exposed outside," Alex said. "We can keep watch from the window. If we see anyone coming, we'll know to hide or run." As they sat in the dim light, Alex felt a mixture of fear and determination. They were in a difficult situation, but they had each other. Together, they would find a way to survive. "Can you tell me more about your planet?" Zara asked, breaking the silence. "What is it like?" Alex thought for a moment, a smile creeping onto his face. "It's beautiful. The skies are blue, and there are huge oceans. The cities are full of lights and people. I can show you when we get back." Zara's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I can't wait to see it," she said, her voice hopeful. As they talked about their worlds, Alex felt a sense of calm wash over him. No matter how dangerous their situation was, they had each other, and together, they would face whatever came next. Suddenly, a noise outside made them both freeze. Alex glanced at Zara, and they exchanged worried looks. "Stay quiet," he whispered, leaning closer to the window. The sound of footsteps grew louder, and Alex's heart raced again. Were the mercenaries back? They held their breath, waiting for the escape. Alex and Zara held their breath, pressing their backs against the cold wall of the cabin. The footsteps outside grew louder, crunching leaves and twigs underfoot. Alex peeked through the window, his heart racing. "Please don't let it be them," he whispered, praying silently. Outside, a shadow moved past the window. Alex's stomach twisted with fear. "It's too close," he said, backing away from the glass. "We need to be ready to move." Zara nodded, her eyes wide with worry. "What if they see us? What should we do?" "If it's the mercenaries, we'll have to escape through the back," Alex replied, glancing around the room for another exit. "We can't let them catch us here." Just then, the door creaked open, and a mercenary stepped inside, his flashlight scanning the room. Alex's breath caught in his throat. The man looked around, his eyes searching every corner. "They have to be here somewhere," the mercenary grumbled, stepping further inside. "They couldn't have gone far." "Now," Alex whispered urgently. They turned and rushed toward the back door, trying to be as quiet as possible. As they slipped out, they could hear the mercenary's voice growing louder behind them. "I know you're here. Come out, and I won't hurt you." They bolted into the trees, hearts pounding as they ran. The forest felt alive around them, but Alex focused only on putting distance between them and the mercenary. "Where should we go?" Zara gasped, struggling to keep up. "Follow me," Alex shouted, leading her deeper into the woods. He remembered the stream he had seen earlier. "If we can reach the water, it might hide our scent." They ran through the trees, branches scratching their arms and legs. The sound of rushing water grew louder, and soon they stumbled upon the stream. It flowed steadily, clear and cool, cutting through the dense underbrush. "Jump in," Alex shouted, not thinking twice. They leaped into the water, the cold soaking through their clothes. The stream was shallow but fast, pulling them downstream. "Stay low," Alex urged, ducking beneath the water. He could hear the mercenaries shouting in the distance, growing frustrated. They swam as quietly as they could, using the current to carry them away from danger. Alex glanced back, his heart pounding. He could see the mercenary at the edge of the trees, searching frantically for them. "They'll never find us here," Zara said, her voice muffled by the water. "I hope you're right," Alex replied, trying to stay focused. They kept moving, the water helping to cover their tracks. After a while, they pulled themselves onto the bank, gasping for breath. They lay on the grass, soaking wet but safe for the moment. "I can't believe we made it," Zara said, wiping water from her eyes. "That was so close." "We're not out of danger yet," Alex warned, scanning the area. "We need to keep moving and find a place to hide." Zara nodded, her expression serious. "What if they follow the stream?" "They might, but we can use the forest to our advantage," Alex said, standing up and helping Zara to her feet. "Let's head away from the water for now." They walked cautiously along the edge of the stream, keeping low and quiet. Alex felt a surge of determination. They had come too far to give up now. After a while, they found a small cave hidden behind some bushes. "Look," Alex pointed. "We can hide in there." Zara nodded, relief washing over her. "Let's go." They slipped inside the cave, its darkness wrapping around them like a blanket. Alex turned to Zara, his heart still racing. "We can rest here for a bit." As they sat in the cave, Zara looked at Alex, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for saving me. I don't know what I would have done without you." Alex smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. "We're in this together. I won't let anything happen to you." They sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the forest fading away. Alex felt hopeful. They had escaped the mercenaries, at least for now. "Do you think we can find help soon?" Zara asked, breaking the silence. "I hope so," Alex replied. "I have to find a way to get you back to your home. It's not safe for you here." Zara nodded, her expression serious. "And what about you? Will you be okay?" "I'll be fine," Alex said, trying to reassure her. "I'll figure something out. We just need to keep moving and stay together." As the sun began to set, casting an orange glow over the cave, Alex and Zara felt a sense of calm. They were safe for the moment, and that was enough. Just then, a sound echoed from outside the cave, a distant shout, followed by the crackling of branches. Alex's heart dropped. "Are they back?" Zara whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "I don't know," Alex said, moving closer to the entrance to listen. "We have to be ready." The sounds grew louder, footsteps approaching the cave. Alex's heart raced as he realized they had to make a choice, stay and risk being caught, or make a break for it again. "Get ready to run," he whispered to Zara, his mind racing with possibilities. As the footsteps drew nearer, Alex took a deep breath. They had come too far to give up now. Together, they would face whatever came next.